Happy holiday season and welcome to the Munchkin Minute, your twice monthly look into some tabletop gaming news and more. I'm your host, Dan, the Board Game Man, and this is your news for the end of the year, December 2024. And I said it every month about how fast this year went, and it went amazingly quick this year. Can't wait to see what big games 2025 will have to bring, but that's for a future show. For today, I'm going to have the holiday gift guide, and don't worry, I'll put all the links to all of these games in the show notes for you, but I'm going to talk about all the different games because it's kind of like time of year where there's not a whole lot of news, but I'm going to have a whole lot of games that I think you might like to give people for the year. I'm going to try mostly keeping this centered around games from this year, and you should be able to find all of these games either on Amazon, online game retailers, your friendly local game stores, mass market stores like Target, and even Barnes & Noble, who has a ridiculous selection of games in most of their Barnes & Noble stores. But this is going to be games where you can give for gifts, or maybe you just want to pick up to play with people over the holiday season. You'll understand more as I get into them like I do every single year. There's a bunch of games, so I will try to get into what I can really quickly here. So first up, let's talk about the small family games. Now, what we like to do, especially in my family, like on the weekends, especially around holiday time, or even maybe when we just get together for the holiday season, play these kind of card games. A lot of, kind of the games like you see like Phase 10 or Uno, but just kind of newer games that kind of are easier and don't last all night long. First one up is Trio. This is a great game that came out a couple years ago, and it is perfect for just kind of people learning, like just families learning to play the games. You get a hand of cards, and then it'll be some cards face down in front of you. So it almost has a memory element. Well, it does have, not almost, it has a memory element to it. And in your hand, you're going to put your cards from lowest to highest. And on your turn, you get to ask two questions. You can ask the question of yourself or ask the question of somebody else, or you can flip over a card. So the questions you can say is, hey, Steven, show me your lowest card. And he has to show your lowest card. And then you can ask somebody else, hey, show me your lowest card. Or you can flip over a card in the middle. So now you're trying to find a trio, just like the game's name is, trying to find a trio of cards. So if you find two of the same card, then you get to go one more time. If you find two cards that are not the same, your turn is over and it goes to the next person. So you can basically ask, what is your lowest card, or what is your highest card, or flip over something in the middle. Obviously yourself, you can ask yourself, what is my lowest card? So you can then put something out. So if I get Steven flips over a 2, and then I ask Rodrigo, what's your lowest card? And he flips over a 2, and I happen to have a 2, then I put it out. Then I have a trio of cards, and it goes on to the next person. The basic game, you're trying to find 3 sets of 3, and you move on. What an amazing, great game. It's really fun and easy to teach as well. Next up, Gap. This is another one of these really cool kind of card games. You're basically having a hand of cards. There'll be 4 cards out in the middle. Your cards will have four or 5 suits, depending on how many players you're playing. You're basically putting a card out from your hand from 0 to 9, and you're either going to get the card back that have the same number or on the opposite side. So if I put out a 2, I would get either all the 2s out there, or I would get a 1 and a 3, or the 1 or the 3, depending on what is out there in front. Or if there's no matches or nothing on either side, the card just goes back in the middle. And then you have basically, you're getting cards based on numbers, and then you're scoring based on colors. You're trying to find the gap. So the highest and the lowest, the highest amount of cards in one color, or basically 2 colors. If you tie, you'll add up how many of those, and then you subtract the lowest, however you have the lowest amount. And of course, when you get you can get kind of screwed in this game, where if you have, like, let's just say I have 4 cards in one color and then 3 sets of 2 cards in 3 different colors, I'm screwed, because then I'm going to have a -2 there. But a great game. Another one that's easy to teach, easy to learn. Captain Flip. Another great game. I talked about this one earlier in the year. It was up for Spiel des Jahres. Basically just kind of pulling something out of a bag. You're going to either put it in your tableau, the tile in your tableau, or you're going to decide to flip it, and then you're stuck with that, and different tiles will have different things that will happen to you. Next up, Scout. Scout is a game that was kind of one of those games of the year type games a few years ago. Again, it's a ladder climbing game, and as you're playing, if somebody cannot beat your hand, they basically take one of those cards. You know, what you play out in front of you. If you play a 3 of a kind, they cannot beat it. They would take one of those cards, add it to their hand. But the trick to this game is another one of these games where when you get dealt cards, you cannot change how they are how they are situated in your hand, and you just have to go with it. Real fun, real easy to learn game that my family loves as well. Next up, let's go to some party games. Now, again, just like I mentioned with with the kind of small games that you want to play with your family on holidays, you want kind of party games because you want to involve everybody. And these 3 games are easy to learn. First up, Landmarks. Landmarks is kind of like a cooperative for everybody code names, where you've got a map and you've got trying to get your players to go from one place to the other, and you have these hex tiles that'll have words on them. And then as you're trying to give clues, they're going to have either two words together, but you're trying to get people to the certain landmarks to get different points and then escape the island. It's really, really fun. It is one of the best party games of this year. Also, Green Team Wins. I talk about this all the time. One of the best holiday games. I mean, one of the best party games there is. But Green Team Wins has a holiday party pack, or Green Team Wins Holiday Party. It's not just a small pack, but it's a standalone game as well. Green Team Wins is just an amazing game to play with family and friends around the holidays. And then finally, a newer one for this year that I actually haven't played, but I really want to get my hands on it. It's called The Gang. Now, this takes kind of the cooperative nature of different games, but also brings in Texas Hold'em. So you have basically everybody's got cards, and you're going to be revealing the river and all the 5 cards. But what you're doing each round is you're betting on who has the highest and lowest hand. Now, it's cooperative, so you're trying to get the most points. So now you really can't communicate, but you're going to be putting out your chips to say whether, kind of ranking each other's, where you think everybody's going to be at the end of the round. And depending on how right you are by the end of all the cards that are out, you're going to get points. Really cool, unique little way to play the game, and it plays really quick, like all of these games play really, really quick. And that one, of course, the gang goes from 3 to 6 players. So maybe not quite as big of a party game, maybe kind of closer to the small family game, but still a really, really cool. Let's talk about some gateway games to bring in those family members, or to give to family members that may not be huge gamers, but really would, you want to try to get them into gaming. First up is River Valley Glassworks. You can get this one at Target and a little bit everywhere. This is going to be one of the top games of this year, and really should be a Spiel des Jahres next year. It really should be. Anyway, in River Valley Glassworks, there's going to be kind of the river is going to be set up in front of you, and there's going to be a certain amount of these little pieces of glass. They're really nice little pieces, depending on all the different versions of the game. They're all really, really nice. So you're going to basically put a piece of glass from your hand or from your tableau out. You'll have anywhere from 1 to 5 pieces of glass in front of you. You're going to put one of them on the river, and then you're going to get all the pieces of glass from the left or the right, depending on where you put it, and that's going to go into your tableau. And you're trying to get sets. Basically, you're trying to get as many of different colors in front of you, and then you're going to try to get multiples of the one that's all the way to the right. It's a lot easier than I'm even explaining it, but it's an amazing gateway game, and I cannot recommend it enough. Also, Dabba, Walla, this is kind of has your almost like For Sale, if anybody's familiar with that one. This is kind of a 2 to 4 player game where basically you're kind of moving around the city, and you're trying to get different polyomino pieces, which will go onto your little board in front of you, which represents basically you're going to be getting these kind of these meals that you're going to be then giving out. So the different colors, you're trying to get all the same colors in different arrangements, and you're trying to fill up from the bottom to the top, filling up your different arrangement. And then a second half of the game, you're going to be selling those depending on the market. Again, another very easy to play, amazing table presence, a lot of fun. And lastly, in the gateway games is a game called Harmonies. Now, this one really reminds me of Reef that came out a few years ago. But Harmonies is a really cool new game that came out this year, where you're definitely, you're basically drafting different pieces that will go onto your board. These little round discs and nice wooden discs. And then you're also drafting kind of scoring cards. So they'll be scoring in different ways. You're trying to get these cubes off of the scoring cards, so depending on how difficult it is, you'll put cubes onto your board to fulfill scoring things. Depending on how many of those you get, you'll get points. Very easy, kind of a visual spatial, very easy game to play, and really cool how you're drafting and setting up your board, which is going to be different from everybody else. Harmonies is going to be on a lot of people's list for games of the year. So 2-player games, kind of your duel type games that we've got. So 2-player games that you can give. So Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth, kind of both of these games kind of bring almost that Seven Wonders Duel aspect to it, but this takes Seven Wonders Duel and makes it a little bit harder. Obviously, if you want to just bring a duel game to somebody that's very light, and you can never go wrong with Seven Wonders Duel, but Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth kind of takes it into another direction. And of course, the other one that came out this year, which was great, is King of Tokyo Duel, which is another great 2-player game. Now, once you get people into the gateway games and you want to go a little bit further, here's 3 games that can get you to the next level of gaming for your friends and family. So first up, Horrified World of Monsters. Now, pretty much any of the Horrified series would be great, but Horrified World of Monsters is the newest one in the series. Horrified is a great co-op game to play with your family. It's not hard. It's not scary or anything like that. It takes kind of the pandemic way of playing, but simplifies it really bit and has a lot of different variability because there's a lot of different monsters that are on each one of these sets. World of Monsters is a great game and of the newer ones of the set. Águeda, City of Umbrellas. This is kind of, again, the next level of gaming. It's like Azul, but even a little bit easier and easier to teach and easier to play, but still has that real fun gameplay element of kind of Azul, where you're getting these different really nice pieces, really nice bits, where you're getting these umbrellas onto your board, onto your tableau, and scoring points depending on the colors that you are drafting. Really fun game. Águeda, City of Umbrellas. And then finally, in the next level gaming, kind of Stonespine Architects, another drafting game, because everybody loves drafting, and drafting is really easy to teach. So in Stonespine Architects, you're kind of making your own little dungeon. And as you're drafting cards that go into your dungeon, they're going to have basically your straight pieces or kind of a branching T pieces or the crosses. You're trying to make from the beginning of your dungeon to the end, connecting them. They have different things on each one of the cards. They'll have things like kobolds or lizardmen and things like that. But there's going to be scoring cards to determine how you will score your dungeon. It's really fun. Really, really easy to play. But again, that next level of gaming, almost kind of gateway, but a little bit more of that next level. So for your Steam-loving gamer nephew or cousin, or if you like the Steam game, Slay to Spire, the board game, it's a little bit bigger, takes a little bit while to play, but if you like Slay to Spire and you like board games, you cannot go wrong. It is a little pricey, probably about $150, but it is amazingly good to play in one of my favorite games of this year. And in the same kind of vein, for that comic book loving friend who hopefully likes games as much as you do, Invincible, the hero building game, is absolutely amazing. It's a lot of fun. It's a bag building, kind of tableau building game, cooperative game, where you're kind of playing almost through comic to comics, but it's more like just using those kind of the IP as a backdrop to a real fun kind of co-op game. Again, a lot of these co-op games kind of feel almost like that pandemic way where things are just happening and you're trying to, overcome them. But don't let that, if you don't like pandemic, don't let that sway you. This is a really fun cooperative game. That is Invincible, the hero building game. For that Star Wars lover out there, first up, we'll talk about CCGs. Star Wars Unlimited came out this year, and you could find some really good starter sets for Star Wars Unlimited. It's not quite as easy to learn as Altered or Lorcana, which are also good gifts to give people and great CCGs. But Star Wars Unlimited is really fun, and it is easier to get into, but a little bit more complex than some of those other ones like I mentioned. But it is a lot of fun to give as gifts, and you can, nice little stocking stuffers for, packs and things like that. Also, The Mandalorian Adventures is an amazing game that came out this year. It is kind of like playing through the season 1 of Mandalorian. Just kind of a cool little campaign or scenario-based game. Really good. Highly recommend it. Not hard to play at all. And being that it's co-op and kind of easy to teach, you can kind of pretty much only one person really needs to know how to play. You can kind of run everybody through the game easy enough. And then finally, Star Wars, a deck building game, Clone Wars Edition. Now, Star Wars deck building game came out last year. The Clone Wars Edition is a newer edition, which can be added to the previous edition or as a standalone, but would make a great gift for your Star Wars lover on your list. For that aunt or uncle who can't stop talking about games from the old days, we have Crossbows and Catapults, Fortress War, another big box game, but you can't go wrong because people love that nostalgia of Crossbows and Catapults. They will absolutely love Crossbows and Catapults, Fortress War. I've played it. It is fun. It is amazing. And I am the age of that person that I'm talking about who can't stop talking about games from the old days. Amazing game, Crossbows and Catapults, Fortress War. Just a few more now. So for the Gloomhaven lover on your list who loves big honking games and probably already has no room for any more big games, but I'm going to mention 2 more anyway. ISS Vanguard is a really cool kind of campaign-y type game where it almost feels like FTL, Faster Than Light, but a grander campaign scale, because as you're kind of taking your ship out into outer space and you're going to different planets and stuff, you're going to be manning different parts of the ship and doing different things as you go to the different planets. And you're going to be changing how you're going to be leveling up, changing how you can work on a ship or do different jobs, things like that. And it's got a really cool story element. It is grandiose, it is huge, and it is awesome. And then also, because again, I mentioned kind of the Gloomhaven lover on your list. Another great game that came out this year is Agamonia. Agamonia, I did find it myself. I not really sponsored or anything, but if you're looking for a copy of Agamonia to be delivered cheaply or basically free shipping and a good price, it was $175 on Game Nerds. I highly recommend checking it out. That's where I picked it up. Agamonia is absolutely flipping amazing. It's so much fun. And if you like solo gaming, you can play this one 3-handed without any problems. Whereas Gloomhaven, 2 to 3-handed, maybe a little more complex. It's a bit different than Gloomhaven, probably even easier to get into because it's more dice chucky, kind of dungeon crawler fun, but it has a long campaign. Not long, it's got a decent amount of campaign. I think there's 30 something scenarios in there. So it's like that average level campaign without being too overwhelming for your group. But man, is it a lot of fun. That fantasy theme has a lot of fun ways, the way you're playing your character, where you're kind of leveling up the character, getting professions. and just playing the game. The story is cool. The app really works well with the game to help keep track of everything. But man, that was great. So hopefully everybody liked all the different games, especially those small family-friendly games that I like to mention that are great stocking stuffers: Trio, Gap, Captain Flip, and Scout. I've only got one thing that I want to talk about in crowdfunding. That is Man vs. Meeple Season 5. I'd be remiss if I did not mention what a great resource to the gaming world that Man vs. Meeple is. I think they're really, in my opinion, David and crew are probably the number one source of gaming news out there now. He does great videos, great opinions, great job with all the previews. I absolutely love Man vs. Meeple. I can't stress it enough. So if you can throw a few bucks their way for their Season 5, and you can get some promos as well for a lot of new games on there as well. Two quick hits from digital as well. The Codenames app is out. I think I've mentioned this one in the past, but I wanted to report back that I love this app. It's not just playing Codenames, but there's a lot of other really cool things to do. So especially if you don't, you can bring your friends into the app. People who buy, you get on your friends list and you play Codenames with friends. A lot of fun to do that 2v2. You can also kind of play with random people where you're either playing as a spy master or the guesser, and they've got different kind of scenarios that you're playing through on there, which is a lot of fun. You can also just kind of do these daily puzzles where there's kind of you'll see a hand of cards, or basically a tableau of the 4x5 grid of cards, and somebody's giving a clue, and you've got to see if you can get it right. And that gives you some points, helps you level up, and you have all these different ones. Every day you get a certain amount of cases you can do, and then you can also give the one clue case and see how well you stack up against other people using the same board. It's amazing how much cool stuff is in this Codenames app. I cannot stress enough how much I recommend it. Also, Imperial Miners just put up a pretty cool update that I wanted to mention. There's an app for that, Imperial Miners. Very much kind of an early stage. There's a couple bugs here, but it's a really good app. But they did just have a new update where they have this duel scenario that plays really well. I highly recommend it. Really, really cool to check that one out. That is the Imperial Miners app. And the Codenames app. And of course, like I said, with crowdfunding, check out Man vs. Meeple Season 5. As I finish up another amazing year on Munchkin Land, I just wanted to thank everyone who listens and chats on the Major Spoilers Discord or other social media. And even if you don't chat with us or myself, thanks a ton for listening and for playing great games in this hobby space. And of course, again, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Steven for giving me a great place to overshare way too many games and things I just can't stop talking about every month, each and every year. I hope everyone has a happy and healthy rest of the year, and I hope you enjoy your holidays, whatever it is you celebrate. Please enjoy and have a happy and safe time. As always, I am Dan, the Board Game Man. You can find me at Geek Jock Dan on the Geek All Stars podcast. And of course, please check out all the other great shows on the Major Spoilers Network. Until next year, have fun gaming, and I'll see you next time for another Munchkin Minute.
This podcast is copyright 2024 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.